The recent development of a supply convoy of the United States Marine Corps entering Afghanistan has stirred surprise and concern in Iran. And yet, when seen from a broader lens, it offers a number of positive implications for regional security, logistical transparency, and diplomatic opportunity. First, it is important to note what exactly this marks: a large-scale armored supply movement by U.S. Marines crossing into Afghanistan, which has drawn particular attention from Iran because of Iran's deep regional interests and sensitivity to any increased U.S. military presence near its sphere of influence. From Iran's standpoint, the shock is understandable. Iran has invested for decades in relationships, infrastructure, cultural ties, and geopolitical depth across its eastern border with Afghanistan. Ankara-style regional developments, bloc alignments, and shifting supply routes all feature in Tehran's strategic calculus. The sight of an American armored convoy should therefore register on Iran's outlook as a signal that the United States is renewing or reinforcing supply, reach, and influence in Afghanistan. That, in turn, prompts Iranian worry about balance of power, influence over Afghan governance, and possible encirclement or contestation of Iranian-backed networks. But beyond the immediate emotional reaction from Iran, the event also offers positive dynamics. For one, the logistical activation of a major supply convoy by U.S. Marines demonstrates a renewed functioning of supply chains, readiness, and an ability to project stability. In the context of Afghanistan, where the challenge has often been sustaining operations, delivering aid, supplies, and logistics consistently. An armored supply column shows that the U.S. side is re-establishing its capacity to reliably move heavy equipment, ammunition, supplies, or humanitarian goods. That bolsters confidence, both inside Afghanistan and among allied partner nations, that infrastructure and security supply lines are active and resilient. Moreover, for Afghanistan itself, and for regional stakeholders, including Iran, this may offer a tangible opportunity. The presence of a highly equipped supply convoy doesn't necessarily need to be purely military in nature. It can also serve relief, reconstruction, or stabilization roles. When large-scale logistics are mobilized, the marginal cost of adding humanitarian goods, infrastructure materials, and engineering equipment is lower. Hence, regions recovering from conflicts stand to benefit. If coordinated properly, the convoy might carry not only combat supplies, but also reconstruction kits, road repair materials, medical aid, or building supplies for Afghan infrastructure that would align with broader regional interests, including those of Iran, which has already invested heavily in Afghan provinces, especially in the West, through roads, energy exchange, and cultural linkages. Another positive dimension is the diplomatic signal. The fact that the U.S. Marines are willing to operate openly with armored supply convoys suggests less covert, less ambiguous military activity, and more predictable, accountable operations. That transparency helps build trust, or at least reduces miscalculation risk, with neighboring states such as Iran. From Iran's perspective, if it sees U.S. supply movements as overt, announced, and coordinated rather than clandestine, then Iran may feel less threatened and more able to engage in parallel dialogues rather than reflexive opposition. In other words, visible U.S. logistics may open space for Iran to register its concerns, negotiate transit, influence, supply routing, or even take part in joint. Furthermore, this event can serve as a platform for regional cooperation. Iran has strong interests in Afghanistan. Water rights, refugee flows, border security, narcotics, transit, all of which converge with the idea of stable supply corridors and reliable logistics. If the U.S. convoy movement is linked into a broader regional security architecture, for instance, coordinated with Afghan, Iranian, or Central Asian authorities, then Iran could view it not as unilateral projection but as part of a networked stabilization effort. In that sense, what initially shocks Iran may gradually become a shared asset. Safe and sustained supply routes across Afghanistan benefit many, including Iran. From the Afghan perspective, the strengthened supply chain supports the government's ability to deliver services, maintain security, and project governance into remote areas. That, in turn, reduces vacuum, diminishes opportunities for insurgent spoilers, and reduces regional neighboring states' incentives to intervene politically. In other words, U.S. logistics support helps build Afghan sovereignty, which is in everyone's interest, including Iran's, which prefers a stable Afghanistan under some form of governance, rather than chaotic fragmentation, which leads to cross-border spillovers. It is also worth noting the psychological dimension. When adversaries or former adversaries observe visible shifts in logistics, supply, and readiness, it sends a message of commitment. For Iran, seeing U.S. Marines actively supplying Afghan operations may signal that Washington remains engaged in the region for the long haul. This can alter Iran's calculations about how and when to deploy its own resources, how aggressively to pursue its interests, and how to structure its diplomacy. That kind of signaling can lead to greater caution and more temperate diplomatic behaviors from Iran, which is a beneficial outcome for regional stability. Of course, positive outcomes hinge on how the convoy is managed, how transparent and cooperative the movement is, and whether it is embedded in a context of regional dialogue rather than confrontation. Some practical suggestions. Ensure Iran through diplomatic channels is informed of the route and nature of the convoy so as to reduce integrate Afghan local authorities and regional states in logistics coordination, so the route becomes a shared asset rather than a unilateral project. Such steps will mitigate Iranian alarm and convert what appears as a threat into an instrument of stability. In summary, while Iran's startled reaction reflects deep-seated security sensitivities, the entry of a U.S. Marine supply convoy into Afghanistan can be reframed as a positive signal of renewed logistical capability, of opportunities for reconstruction and humanitarian support, of transparent military posturing, and of potential regional cooperation. For Iran, the choice lies in viewing this as a challenge to be met defensively or as an opening for engagement. If Iran opts for engagement, it can help shape supply routes, benefit from reconstruction spillovers, reduce fragile state risks on its border, and deepen regional trade and connectivity. Ultimately, the move offers more than just a military projection. It offers a chance for constructive regional architecture.